Welcome back to another video. My name is Adam. Today we're looking over Maxar Technologies. Over the past couple days, this stock has fell 30% on the result of their Q1 earnings. I think this stock is unnecessarily beaten down, and we're going to go over my bull thesis for Maxar Technologies. I actually covered this stock back in November when it took a hit, a 23% downward move in one day on November 6th. And I suggested buying this stock. So this stock was trading at $21. Now it's still trading at $28. But I mean, previously we can see this stock was a $40 stock. Okay, if we look at over the past 6 months, it even reached close to $55. Its 52-week high was $58.75, and now we can see that it was absolutely destroyed by this past move. And I think this represents a perfect buying opportunity. And although I missed out on the first wave back when it was $21, I did not miss this wave, and I put some money in Maxar Technologies. So let's go over first their Q1 2021 results. First, they produced a net loss of $84 million, which included a $20 million charge related to the XM7 satellite program and a $41 million loss on debt extinguishment from the early repayment of their 2023 notes. So the first part, of course, was not a positive note. So if you look at what happened, so their satellites basically failed once they were launched into orbit. And if you didn't know, back in January, basically, SiriusXM's latest satellite, built by Maxar and launched by SpaceX, which is Elon Musk's company, suffers failure in orbit. And they didn't disclose exactly what happened with the satellites and what was faulty on them. Okay, but again, this is, of course, not good news for Maxar, but this net loss included the $28 million that was lost due to the faulty satellites. And then they paid back some of their debt, which is, again, according to me, a pretty good move on their part. So they lost $1.30 per share, and I think as analysts were actually estimating them to have some earnings per share, like about $1 of earnings per share. So they had consolidated revenues of $392 million, which was up 3% year over year, and they completed the public offering of 10 million shares at a price of $40 per share, which is of course a premium of quite a bit compared to where they're trading now at $28 a share. And use the proceeds to pay $350 million in principal borrowings on our 2023 debt. So they reduced their total debt from $2.1 billion compared to $2.4 billion. So I think that's a good move. Okay, they're trying to reduce that, and the way they did that was, of course, by issuing more stock at $40 a share. And let's see what they said here. So we continue this quarter to make progress towards achieving our longer-term targets, including efforts to drive sustainable growth in both our Earth intelligence and space infrastructure segments, and to reduce our debt and leverage. In Earth Intelligence, we signed several renewals with commercial and international government customers and booked awards with U.S. Army and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency to support training, tactical, and intelligence missions. In space infrastructure, key wins included a contract modification with NASA and several study contracts supporting national security missions. So again, that's good news. It seems like their products are doing well. They also have a bunch of next-gen satellites coming with their Worldview Legion. And I mean, I think the delay of these satellites was due to some of their failures with the SiriusXM satellites. But again, they are planning to launch these next-gen satellites, fueling the most advanced Earth intelligence solutions, right? And again, speaking to their contracts, so Maxar delivers spacecraft bus for NASA's Psyche mission, and they award contract to support GeoInt exploitation for U.S. Army and combatant commands. So again, it seems like the U.S. And NASA, they like Maxar Technologies, and they're awarding them contracts, which is of course what is needed in order to fuel Maxar's growth. Okay, and it is a solid company. I just think they had a series of unfortunate events, and I mean it is common for the first few spacecrafts when they're launching into space to fail, right? So I think like SpaceX has like 9 or 10 prototypes, okay? And I mean, same thing with when you're talking about space infrastructure, it's common for these things to fail the first few times around. So I think investors are being unnecessarily hard on Maxar, and I mean, I think it presents a pretty good valuation right now. They actually pay a dividend of 1 cent per share, which is only 0.14 for the year. Right now, sitting at a market cap of just over $2 billion with a price to earnings ratio of 6. When the overall market, their price to earnings ratio is around like 27 or something like that. So like, whoo, that's a, pretty good price to earnings ratio if I've ever seen one, okay, despite the bad quarter. And I've just been reading some articles, and again, I think it's in line with what I'm saying. So basically, losses slimmed in their space infrastructure segment. Total sales inched up 3% year over year, but the composition of those sales was not all what might be desired. So the company recorded 17% more business in the money-losing space infrastructure segment, but then sales declined 8% in Maxar's high-margin Earth Intelligence unit. So again, some good and some bad news. And of course, they talked about their debt. And so although the size of Q1's loss makes it unlikely that Maxar will turn a GAAP profit this year, analysts predict that by 2022, Maxar should be earning steady and growing profits once again, producing positive free cash flow besides. So I think once this happens, the stock will recover nicely. And of course, I took advantage and I bought some shares on this dip. So let's take a look at just some technicals, very basic technicals here, but we're looking at, I want to put the 1 year chart here. So of course, still up over the year quite significantly. I mean, it used to be like in the single digits, $9 a share. So you might want to wait for the stock to contract even more. But I think it's time to start a small position, and that's exactly what I did. So you're looking at the 50-day moving average right here in the purple. Also, excuse the hammering outside, but I guess it just represents how Maxar stock is getting hammered. But again, 50-day moving average at 40. Right now, stock is at 28. So a steep discount on the stock price. And right now, RSI is sitting at 27, and anything below 30 is oversold, and anything above 70 is overbought. So definitely in the oversold territory, which means that way more money is going out of the stock than is necessarily reasonable, which basically means that it could be a good turnaround, and the stock should slow down its losses very soon. And finally, we can see, of course, very negative MACD right here. And when MACD turns negative like this, that's, of course, a bearish indicator. But again, it could slow down soon, and the reversal of the trend should be apparent sometime soon. So what you might want to do is potentially not catch this as like a falling knife type situation. So basically what that means is when a stock drops by 25%, you may want to apply like 3 days before you buy a little bit of the stock. But again, you could just buy 1 or 2 shares and then buy a couple more shares as the stock goes down to, I don't know, $20, $25 if it ever does. But the other side to that is that it may not ever reach $25. But again, patience is key. And I believe in putting it in a small position and then just averaging down if the stock goes lower. And this stock actually also trades on the Toronto Exchange in the same ticker symbol. So you may want to consider that. And also, if you're interested in trading for zero commission, check out my Wealthsimple account in the link below, and you can get $10 towards your next trade. And it's Canada's first zero commission trading app. And finally, if we're looking again at some numbers here, trailing PE of 6, forward price to earnings ratio of 5, and that is incredibly low. And this stock doesn't have a very high short volume, only at 7%, so I wouldn't be too considered there. And one last thing I will say is that recently there is a move towards space exploration, and I think at the forefront of this is Cathie Wood, and she actually just released a space ETF called ARKX. And while Maxar Technologies wasn't on this list, the Motley Fool does think that Maxar Technologies is a pretty good play if you want to get in a certain space technology that's not on Cathie Wood's list. But I mean, maybe if this downward move might entice Cathie to put in a couple shares of this stock in her space exploration ETF. So I think overall this is a good stock. I think they had a poor quarter because of their recent satellite disruptions. And obviously issuing of shares just dilutes shareholder value. But I do believe in this company long term, and that's why I bought some shares. And so if you want, more videos like this, where I talk about pretty cheap stocks, this is, basically a penny stock right now. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to see my real-time buys and sells, definitely check out my Patreon down in the link below, and we can get you set up with that. And also there's a free link to the Discord. So take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.